Today we're going to shoot a brief video on repairing high-density woven polyethylene fabric, also known as HDPE. This fabric is very common in the fabric building world, used for many different applications from agricultural use to military, industrial, commercial, and every other application in between. Very strong fabric, very resistant to any type of natural forces, as well as wind and snow load. However, there are cases where the fabric may be damaged that you need to repair. Shown here on the table in front of you is the basic tools that are needed to repair. You need a heat welder, a roller, some alcohol to clean off the fabric, and ideally a scissors. To start off with here, I'll just pull up another piece of fabric and we'll set this stuff aside. So say for example, you have a piece of fabric that your lawnmower threw a rock through and it damaged the fabric. There's clearly a hole that goes all the way through, some stranding in between, but kind of a little hole that happened. Again, very easy to repair. The first thing that we would do in this process is I would take a scissors. I tend to stay away from utility knives just because they tend to make jagged edges. And what you want to do is cut off any of the fraying and the loose items here. So I would just take this, kind of cut around the opening that is to be repaired to make sure that all that fringing is taken away. So at that point now we're left with a nice clean hole. The next thing you want to do is cut a piece of repair fabric. So we can take another piece that's laying around or a piece that got sent to you from a manufacturer. What you want to do is line up the strands. It's the best way to make it invisible or as close to invisible as possible after the repair is complete. The other thing that you want to do is you do not want to leave any square cut corners on your repair piece of fabric. That will leave it susceptible to snow and ice sliding off and catching an edge. So what we try to do is normally make a pill shape in the patch, and what I will do first off is I would start off by drawing a quick opening here on the fabric so I know about what size I need to make. So there's kind of my opening. What I'm going to do is trim around that to make an oval patch that will normally extend about 1 inch to 1.5 inches past the sides of the hole on all sides. And again, you don't want any square cut edges on any of the corners. So we can start off with this, and as you can see, this will line up great right across the hole. On the back side, obviously your marks will line up accordingly. So that's how we're going to start off. Then basically what we need to start off with is our welder and get that up to temperature. There's really no right or wrong temperature on the welder. It all depends on the speed at which you're comfortable to weld. And the first thing you're going to do is turn it on and set a general setting. I do always recommend doing this on a test sample first before you try it on the side of your building. So what we're going to do for the sake of noise is I will do some cleaning on the fabric first, then I'll start the welder and just set it off to the side and just give it a moment to get up to temperature, and we'll continue from there. For cleaning the fabric, what I would normally start out with is just a bottle of alcohol. You just want to get any of the foreign debris off there. It just helps with the adhesion of the patch. Throw a little alcohol on a rag. You can wipe down basically all sides of the fabric where it's going to be joined together, and again, you just want to get any dirt or any foreign debris off of there. Use alcohol because it does evaporate relatively quickly and doesn't leave any lasting residue. So once we got that clean and dried off, we can start by kind of setting the patch on. Hard to see in the camera, I understand, but the fabric strands are going the same way as the fabric below it. Believe it or not, you will notice it if it is not oriented the same way. So I will start the welder here and come back to it as soon as it gets up to temperature. To start welding, what you'll normally do, and I'm just going to explain this beforehand just for the sake of the noise, is you can either duct tape this patch down as where you're going to start it just to hold it in place. I'll normally start with 2 fingers. I'll insert the welder underneath just to get a bond started. Then basically put that down, give it a quick roll, and that'll hold it in place. And then what I will do is come back and I'll work down either side of my opening, heating it up. You have to be very mindful. If you have too much heat, it will burn through the fabric. If you have too little heat, it will not adhere to the fabric, and the repair will easily be able to be torn off. So that's how we're going to start. Again, the setting of your welder will vary depending on the temperature, the humidity, and everything else. So always take an additional piece of fabric along for the conditions that you can try before you work on this on the side of your building. So we'll grab the welder and see if we're up to temperature. In order to ensure you have a good bond on the fabric, it may be hard to see in the camera, but the fabric will somewhat take a different shape. It'll look like it's beginning to melt. And that's what you want to happen. You want the fabric to melt together on the outside scrim of the fabric without melting through the actual strands itself. So it will take some deformation here, and that just means that you did get the fabric hot enough. If it does not look like that at all, it generally means it's going to be a cold weld, and you'll likely be able to walk by and pull the repair right off. So I will start with the roller right in place where it needs to be. I'll watch my fabric, and as it does start to get warm, I'll just roll the roller accordingly. One thing that I did forget to mention, when you're doing this on your building after the fabric is up and in place, what you'll need is to have somebody go on the back side of the fabric and hold a piece of plywood tightly against the fabric, so as you roll it, it has a solid backer to back against. If you can see, this fabric all has kind of deformed a little bit. You can tell that there is heat. Aside from up here, I can tell that it did get a little bit cold there, so as I look and try to pull, I can pull a couple strands apart, which just means that it didn't get hot enough, and that we can repair. Obviously where we started right here, on the top side we did not get hot, so we can see that right there. So what we'll do is go down the other side and finish this off and show you what it looks like when it's complete.